Hey guys, welcome back. Joe Brunsman, insurance broker to the stars. And today we're going to be talking about when going old school goes wrong and how by being a good business person, you may inadvertently be voiding your insurance policy. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. Now, the best way to explain this is through a car crash example. So let's say you get into a fender bender, people are filming on their cell phones, and you pop out of the car, you talk to the driver, and you go, hey, you know what? That was totally my fault. I'm sorry. I was looking at my cell phone. I wasn't paying attention. Why don't I just go ahead and pay to get your car fixed? Don't worry about it. And then a couple months later, you think, it's like a $500 fender, and then you're served with a lawsuit. And that lawsuit goes, oh, hey, by the way, it turns out that the frame was actually bent on this car. And oh, by the way, the driver of that car is now saying that he's afraid to drive and he has whiplash and he has carpal tunnel. And there's all of these bad things that have befallen the victim of your terrible circumstance here. Do you think that your car insurance company is going to provide any sort of defense for you when you have just admitted liability, tried to settle it without talking to them, paid out cash? Probably not. And here's why. This is an example from a Tech E&O policy. And you'll see right there it says the insured shall not, so you are barred from, except at personal cost, so keep that in mind, making any offer or payment, admitting any liability, settling any claim, assuming any obligation, incurring any expenses without the company's written consent. So an easier way to kind of think about that is the following three things. You can't make voluntary payments. You can't just pay for things to go away without potentially voiding your insurance policy on that matter. You cannot settle any claim without insurer consent. And of course, you cannot admit liability. You can't just say, hey, you know what, this was my fault. We're just going to take it on the chin and we're going to fix this problem. Now, obviously, when there's any problem, practically speaking, there's two sides to solving that problem. There's the strict insurance side language, and then there's the practical business owner language. So let's go ahead and kind of think about some practical stuff. Let's say you've got a brand new intern and he goes out and you're switching out all the mice and the keyboards and he doesn't put any of the batteries in. Well, that's probably just a laugh in most circumstances. You're probably not going to get sued over something like that. So the business owner calls you and he goes, hey, I know your new guy installed all this new gear, but it doesn't look like he put in the batteries in it. And then you laugh and you go, all right, sorry, I'll get my knucklehead back out there and we'll put the batteries in. Probably not a big deal unless you're installing, I don't know, like 100,000 keyboards or something. But let's say different circumstance. You have misconfigured a firewall, or it turns out that their antivirus was actually turned off for 6 months. And you're like, well, this could be an issue here. Put it another way, this might result in a claim, or it could currently be a potential claim. How do you actually deal with that issue? Well, there's kind of some practical sides to all of this. All right, first you need to think about, okay, was the client somehow damaged? Did they lose any sort of time, money, or reputation there? Is that client exceedingly litigious? So if you make some sort of error at like a mom and pop bakery, that's probably a lot different than making the same error at a law firm that are just full of personal injury lawyers. One's probably, a handshake and a smile. The other one's probably a lot more serious for you. Next, you need to consider, what's your relationship with that client? Is that client like, hey, is the client's son married to your daughter? That's a different relationship than, hey, you onboarded this client a year ago. They've just been a pain in the butt the entire time. You've never gotten along with these guys, and they nitpick about every little thing, and it drives you guys insane. Think about how your relationship is there. Is this a one-off issue or is this a recurring issue? Kind of put another way, I think every business is kind of allowed, say, like one minor mistake per year. But if you have 2 minor mistakes, 3 minor mistakes or more, or of course, if there's a major mistake, that's kind of a different issue there. So every business makes minor mistakes. It's kind of just part of being human until the robot overlords take all of our jobs, in which case I welcome them. But if you just don't have a good track record with that client, or they don't have a good track record with you, different issue. Next, always keep in mind, could this issue become larger? So once again, you accidentally turned off their antivirus for 6 months. Yeah, that could be a bigger issue than just turning it back on. There could be something in their system there. So make sure you keep that in mind. I understand these are really basic examples, but I'm trying to keep it kind of broad. Next thing you need to think about, and this is a great tool to kind of put in your back pocket there as a business owner, is waiver of future or associated claims. So how does this actually come into play? Generally, it's you report an issue to your insurance company. You go, hey, you know what? Like, we're willing to pay this It's just it's a minor issue, but we just want to make sure we're playing by the rules of the game here. Can we have everybody sign a waiver? How does this actually work out in practical terms? Well, we've literally had hundreds of clients do this. And you sit down with your client and you go, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. This was our fault. And we're going to make this right. You're not going to have to pay for it. But that damn insurance company, don't you just hate insurance companies? They say that for us to pay to do this, to fix this problem, we both have to sign this form. And generally how that conversation turns out is not what you think it is. It's not people scrutinizing the form. It's everybody talking about how much they hate insurance companies and how that guy got screwed by an insurance company before and he hates it. And it's story time. So not necessarily something to be afraid of. Next, you need to consider deductibles and retentions. Once again, kind of going back up the list there. Could this issue become larger? It's not as simple as just making a blatant rule that says, hey, if anything's within side of our deductible retention, we're just going to pay for it. Because you never know when that issue could have some deeper ramifications there, or there could be some deeper underlying issues that you haven't really considered that could explode in your face, and you may have potentially voided your insurance policy on that issue. So keep that in mind. And of course, there could be some other considerations here as you move forward. So just kind of use a holistic approach to solving the problems there. Once again, I'm not saying in any particular circumstance that you should or should not report an issue to your insurance company. But what I am trying to do is give you guys kind of a deeper understanding so that way you know how the game is played. If you know the rules of the game, you know how the game is played, it's much more likely that you can win that game. It's when you don't know the rules and you're just acting in good faith that you could potentially get yourself in trouble. All right, so moving forward, once again, remember every circumstance is unique. Keep that in mind. Make sure you just broadly understand your insurance policies. These are insurance contracts. Keep that in mind. You have a contract known as a policy with your insurance company. Of course, understand your policy exclusions. This is just one of probably a myriad of exclusions inside of your policy that could impact your business and your business practices. Remember the definition of claims and potential claims. I made a whole separate video on this. But generally speaking, a claim is a demand for money or services. You'll probably have a more detailed list in your insurance policy. And a potential claim is anything that could potentially bring rise to a claim. So very, very broad. And once again, if you late report that potential claim after you renew your policy, you could have some coverage issues there. You might get denied coverage. So that all kind of wraps up into this. Next, if you're ever in doubt, just seek out competent legal counsel. I'm not giving official insurance or legal advice here. Once again, I'm just trying to help you guys kind of understand how the game is actually played. And don't forget about that waiver of claim or associated claims. That's a great tool to kind of keep in your back pocket there. All right, with that, if you enjoyed this presentation, this is Damage Control, Cyber Insurance, and Compliance. That is where you can download it for free. Also available on Amazon in Kindle and physical versions. If you would like to keep the missus happy over here and keep me making these videos for free for you guys. With that, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Warn your fellow MSP business owners. You guys are welcome to share these videos anywhere that you see fit. Just trying to help the cause. And with that, stay safe.